Join me as I spend 10 weeks completing a work exchange at a hostel in Sofia, Bulgaria. My 10-week adventure started at the Dublin, Ireland airport, and I was supposed to have a quick layover in Frankfurt, Germany, but that quick layover ended up being a little bit too quick for the immigration services, and I missed my connecting flight and ended up spending 12 hours in the Frankfurt airport. Fortunately, the Frankfurt airport has these cool things called nap cabs, so I was able to get some rest and have some privacy during this unexpected and lengthy layover. For those of you unfamiliar with a work exchange, it is an arrangement where an individual trades their labor for a certain amount of time for accommodation. This is something that sometimes families use. They may have an in-house babysitter, or someone may host a work exchange individual to help them with work around the house or with outdoor manual labor. This is also something that's quite common in hostels around the world. So an individual can sometimes exchange their labor at the hostel for a place to stay at the hostel. I survived the lengthy layover and I made it to Sofia. So work exchanges are definitely not something for everyone. You are typically not compensated with any money. Like I said, you are exchanging your labor for a place to stay. But if you work remotely and already have a source of income, it can be a really cool way to see a part of the world for an extended period of time for free, or at least free in terms of your bed.
What the heck?
My sweet friend Vlad was nice enough to pick me up from the Sofia airport, and Vlad and I actually met while we were both completing a work exchange at a hostel in Montana, USA. From the minute I arrived in Sofia, I felt extremely overwhelmed. My first week in Sofia was in late August, and my goodness, was it hot. I was also surrounded by the Cyrillic alphabet and just in a state of culture shock. After getting some rest in my 18-bed hostel dorm, my home for the next 10 weeks, I decided to check out the hostel's common area and head into the city. Fortunately, on my first day in Sofia, I was not asked to do any work for the hostel, so I was just able to get settled in and get familiar with my new surroundings. As mentioned previously, I definitely found Sofia to be overwhelming. Not only did I have to adjust to seeing the Bulgarian language all over the place in the Cyrillic alphabet, but I had to adjust to seeing prices listed in Bulgarian leva. I also had to get used to the pretty terrible state of almost all the sidewalks. But if I wanted to see the same things I've seen my entire life, I could have just stayed in my home country, so I was ready to embrace this new atmosphere. I wrapped up my first day in Sofia with some dinner. Vlad and I stumbled upon this restaurant, and other than the loud music, it became one of our favorite restaurants in Sofia. Enough fun, it was time for me to get to work. On my second full day in Sofia, I was asked to be ready to work at 10 a.m. Well, when I arrived at 10 a.m., they said, well, we're a bit busy. Can you just wait around and you'll actually start at 11? Not really the best way for the hostel to make a good first impression, but I was trying to maintain a positive attitude. And when they asked me to spend my shift shadowing the cleaning lady, I agreed. But she ignored me and didn't even acknowledge that I was a human being.
Oh my gosh, for the gram.
Vlad, how much did 2 slices of pizza cost us each?
$4, like not even like
So like
half of my Starbucks.
so like 4 euros.
€4, exactly.
Yeah. Yay, cheap food. Day 2, I quit. So Vlad, today is your third
It is.
full day in
Yeah.
Sofia. What do you think of working at the hostel so far?
Overwhelming, kind of like stressful and tiring, but we'll figure it out like at some point.
And you definitely didn't sleep in until 1 p.m. today, right?
Oh no, definitely not. Like I woke up at 8, like straight, going to work, and then right.
Sarah is not my real name, but I thought it was super cute that they wrote Sarah in Cyrillic. I did decide to forego the work exchange arrangement, in addition to feeling like the vibe at the hostel was a bit off. When I arrived in Sofia, I had 2 weeks left to complete my master's dissertation.
So what exactly happened with me and this hostel work exchange situation? So Vlad and I met last summer in Montana, USA. We were both doing a work exchange at a hostel there. So in exchange for, I can't remember if it was 20 or 25 hours of work per week, we were able to stay at this hostel for free. So Vlad and I became very close friends. We've done quite a bit of traveling together, and I decided, hey, if we both have time in our schedules, we should do another work exchange. I found this hostel in Sofia, Bulgaria, and it looked like it would be a fantastic fit. Very similar circumstances, working for 20 hours a week and getting to stay for free. Well, Vlad arrived a day earlier than I did, and he very quickly realized that, yes, it's a work exchange, and on paper, things are similar to what we were used to with our first work exchange. But there were also a lot of differences because back in Montana, Vlad and I knew what our schedule was going to be before we even arrived at the hostel, which was really fantastic. We were picked up from the airport and we received a lot of respect as valued members of the hostel staff. Of course, we were volunteers, but we were contributing to the hostel's operation and we were appreciated for that. And I don't want to knock the hostel here too much, or really at all, but I'll just say that, you know, Vlad, he kind of warned me before I even got here that when he arrived, not only did he have to make his way to the hostel by himself, but no one introduced themselves. He didn't have a schedule. He wasn't told what he was going to do. And my experience was very much the same. So trying to work my first shift, I had to wait for an hour and then I was told to follow the cleaning lady who didn't speak much English And long story short, again, I don't want to knock this hostel because I absolutely appreciate that I was invited to stay, I was invited to work. Everything on paper looked fantastic, but because of the inconsistent scheduling and not knowing my schedule in advance, because I work remotely and also because I still have obligations as a graduate student, that inconsistent scheduling style just wasn't going to work for me. So I decided to pay for my 10 weeks in the hostel just in cash rather than doing the work exchange. So yeah, other than doing grunt work at a hostel, hopefully nothing else about my experience is going to change. I'm still going to be here for a total of 10 weeks. I'm still going to get to hang out with Vlad, and he's going to continue to work actually, but because he's only going to be here for three weeks total, he has said that he'll just kind of stick things out. And also Vlad doesn't have the same obligations that I do. And that's one thing about being a volunteer at this hostel. It seems like there's kind of the expectation that you have nothing else going on in your life. And if they ask you to work a shift tomorrow from noon to 4, that's going to be okay with you. And like I said, unfortunately, with the things I have going on in my life, other obligations, that's just not going to work. So now I am free to work remotely, get my school obligations done, and eventually, hopefully have some time to explore and be a tourist.
About 10 minutes into my first shift at the hostel, well, really an hour and 10 minutes because they made me wait there doing nothing for an hour, I texted one of the full-time staff members asking if I could just pay for my 10-week stay, and he agreed. I immediately stopped working the shift, went to an ATM, paid for my 10 weeks in cash, and the rest is history. Much of my first week in Sofia was me continuing to get acquainted with the place and continuing to write my master's dissertation. During my first week, I went to get some essential items at a local grocery store, and I must have looked like I had never been in a grocery store before. But, I mean, come on. They call these full bottles. All of them must have had an inch of emptiness at the top, and to me, that just looks strange, if not kind of pathetic. As mentioned previously, Sofia in late August was extremely hot, and the hostel would not turn on the air conditioning until 11 p.m. And in our 18-bed hostel dorm, there were only 3 floor fans. So I was determined that I was not going to close out my first week in Sofia until I bought my own personal floor fan. Trying to find a fan to purchase was actually way more difficult than it should have been, but I ended up stumbling upon a CD shop. I didn't know that anyone was still buying CDs. At this point, I was a little over halfway through my first week in Sofia. I was still unable to find a fan to purchase, but the show had to go on and I had a master's dissertation to write. I was getting a little tired of Starbucks because of all the noise, so I decided to try to find the local university library. I made my way to where I thought the library might be located, and someone pointed me towards this building. I kept asking around if there was a place for me to sit and get work done, and people kept telling me no, all I could think was, this is the strangest library I have ever been in. It turns out I had actually wandered into one of Sofia University's lecture halls, and this whole experience was kind of comical to me because no one was really bothered by my presence there. I was free to wander around, check out places that I really didn't belong, peek my head into rooms, but I eventually did find a place where I could comfortably and peacefully get some work done. I must admit that this whole experience really amused me. In addition to no one asking me whether I was a student at this university or questioning why I was there, I absolutely loved the aesthetic of this place. As someone who has attended universities with quite modern buildings, I just loved walking around and seeing all of the old stuff. I told Vlad about my experience wandering around this Sofia University building, and he too found it amusing. But because he is from Europe, more specifically, he's from Belgium, to him, it just sounded like a regular old building. And to many students in Europe who attend universities with older buildings, they would probably say the same thing. But like I said, I am used to things looking a bit more modern, and I just love all of this dreadful brown. Not to show my age too much, but I do take a lot of pride in the fact that I learned the Dewey Decimal System when I was in primary school. Shout out to Sister Philomena. Thank you.
So no makeup, but I'm gonna own it. And I am sweating. I am desperately trying to find a laundry service because I don't want to use the laundry facility at the hostel. But not knowing any Bulgarian is making it very difficult to use Apple Maps to find a place that does laundry.
Nevertheless, she persisted. Fortunately, I was eventually able to find a laundromat with a gentleman who spoke just enough English to be able to help me.
So I'm pretty sure I keep getting scammed in this country, not gonna lie. So I just dropped my laundry off and I was quoted at 33 Bulgarian leva, I think is how you pronounce the currency. And when I was in Dublin, I was only charged 12 euro and I had more laundry than what I just dropped off. And 33 leva comes out to about 15 euro. So yeah, I'm getting scammed.
Oh well, I was just excited to have some clean clothes. The two things on my agenda for the last day of week 1 were getting my laundry done and finally getting my hands on my own personal fan. By this point, I had literally walked miles, popping my head into shops and asking them if they sold fans, and I had probably asked at least a dozen retailers. And then I finally found the most beautiful stack of fans I had ever seen. I did not have the necessary screwdriver to assemble the bottom half of my floor fan, but fortunately the top half was really all I needed. My first week in Sofia did not go as I had planned or hoped, so let's see how these next 9 weeks go.